So as many of you know, I'm a huge fan of the AK-74. And in my opinion, it's one of the best guns in the game when it comes to min-maxing. Meaning getting the most value out of as little ruble as possible. It's also a very versatile weapon and you can use it for pretty much everything. So I thought, let's have a look on how you can use the AK from start of the wipe across all the different trader levels until the end wipe. And we're gonna have a look at the different versions of the gun, the different builds you can make, the ammo, pretty much everything. We're also gonna look at how to use the gun if you want to use it as a sniper rifle, because I got asked that a lot recently. But let's start with the different versions. What's the difference between an AK-74, M, N, S, U, or whatever combination? Well, it's pretty simple actually. AK-74N means night sight, meaning it has a dovetail mount, so a side mount, where you can mount scopes without the need of any other rails or dust covers. The standard version cannot do that. Now, S stands for just the stock is foldable. That's the whole meaning behind it. In real life, that's very important, but in Tarkov, there's really no use for it other than gunsmith parts. So it's not really something to look out for. Then there's the M abbreviation, and that just stands for modernized. It's foldable, has a good muzzle break and so on. Now in real life it's amazing because you get a good gun out of the box. But in Tarkov we mod the weapon anyway, so not that amazing. And another disadvantage, you are limited in the amount of stocks that you can mount. The AK-74N has some amazing stocks which don't fit on the M version. That's why I would recommend that you play the AK-74N. I think it's the best one overall in Tarkov. And by the way, we're not gonna talk about this little version of the AK. So now that we went over the alphabet again, let's talk about how is it at the beginning of a wipe. Now all you need is a workbench level 1 and you can craft infinite AKs. All you need is one weapon part, the standard handguard of the AK-74N and the standard stock. Meaning you need to find the gun once in raid because you cannot buy that attachment at the beginning. So if you play as a scav or are in raid as PMC and you find the AK-74N, just try to extract. It allows you to craft this weapon infinite amount of times. And another amazing thing about this craft is that you receive a full magazine with BP ammunition. And if you calculate that, on top of your head of course, that's 12,000 rubles, meaning that's more value than the whole craft itself. You get this weapon for free plus ammunition. So I hope you realize how amazing that is, especially at the beginning of a wipe. Now with workbench level 2 you can craft the M version, but the recipe is basically the same. The handguard and the stock of the gun allows you to craft the gun itself. But as said, I personally prefer the N variant, but it's there if you want to use the M variant. For the weapon parts, all you need is the VPO 209, and this gives you 2 weapon parts, and the VPO is pretty common around scavs, so you should not have any problems finding that gun. And then you can craft infinite AKs. But how do we mod the weapon then? At level 1, well, we are pretty limited, so the weapon also looks pretty basic. So we have to replace the handguard by the AK-100 Series foregrip. Don't worry, I will show you an overview of all parts. So this gets us the handguard for the craft. Then as a sight, I would recommend the Cobra sight. It's cheap, and since the rework of sights, it's a pretty good one. And we're also gonna replace the stock for the recipe again. All of that costs us only 14,000 rubles. And since the gun is basically for free and you get ammunition, you get a gun for 14,000 rubles. You can also mount a tactical device, laser pointer or a flashlight. I leave that up to you. But the cool thing about this now is that we now have the handguard and the stock every time we make the gun, so we can start our infinite AK loop. So what about ammunition? You also have amazing bullets at the beginning for the AK. You can trade BP for cleaner, but well, you have to find it first. But you can also trade BT for 2 Tushonkas, and those are pretty common. And that for a bullet that has 37 penetration, that's brutal at the beginning. Well, the easiest way to find this is to go behind Goshan on interchange, and then just enter the garage, walk the whole way to the backside, and there is, I don't know, a way up with some boxes, and you keep going west to the backside of Goshan. There are some racks, and usually there's a ton of food on top of those shelves. It's a bit unsure currently because of the whole dynamic loot change that BSG is doing, so maybe we need to update this. So check the comment section for further advice. But either way, Tushonkas are pretty common otherwise on the map, so you should not have too much trouble finding those. Then once you level up quite a bit, so let's say level 15 around, it allows you to mod the weapon further that it also looks like modded AK. And here the most important thing is the DTK Muzzle Break, as it has the biggest impact on recoil reduction. The AK-1 and Series 4 grip stays the same. If you want another sight, you can use the Bastion cover, but that's up to you. You can still use the Cobra, it's a really good scope and cheap. The stock stays also the same, we just add a rubber pad on top because that thing is amazing. It beats even a Moe stock or something for just 3000 ruble. That's just brutal. Now if you want, you can use a PP grip for one more ergo for 900 rubles, but I leave that up to you. Same with magazines, just pick whatever you feel comfortable with, it doesn't make that much of a difference. Now that adds up to 40,000 rubles, but before you close the video on anger, that's basically just because of the sight I chose. If we take another one and deactivate it, you see 20,000 rubles. So we get a gun for 20,000 rubles. I hope you realize how amazing that is. Now, how about the ammunition? It doesn't change that much. You get another trade for BT, but dry fuel, that's just no. That's worth way more than 30 BT bullets. Then once we unlock the flea market, so level 20, we have even more possibilities, but I'm on the budget side, so I'm not gonna spend thousands of rubles just because I can. We wanna stick with the min-maxing, so it looks like this. So basically the only thing that changed is that we use a Moe handguard and attach a grip to it. It reduces the recoil a bit further for a reasonable price while still making sure that we get the gun back via insurance all the time. And yes, it looks horrible again on the shopping list, but again, the site I chose costs around 25,000 rubles, so just pick a cheaper one and you're again on an amazing budget run. And now this build stays the same for a pretty long time. Of course you can change the stock, but other than that there's not much to do, because first you need to unlock the PWS Muzzle Break, because this thing has again a huge impact on the gun. But if you don't have it unlocked with traders, people charge a huge amount of money for that, so I wouldn't buy it on the flea market, and that's why I think the gun stays the same until you unlock new muzzle breaks. So the gun will look like this for a long time, but again, for around 30,000 ruble, that's amazing, and just bring some BT and you will absolutely destroy left and right. But if you want to see a meta AK, that's how it goes. Now as always, we start with the stock, and in my opinion the best min-maxing here is the Zuaf, or however that's pronounced. Costs around 20,000 rubles and really adds a lot of recoil reduction. Then when it comes to pistol grips, you don't really need them because they just add ergonomics, but I think the SAW is the best for the buck here. Then as you have seen before, we just add a Bastion cover so we are able to mount a sight. You need to remove the knobbles in front. Then just add whatever sight you prefer. That's pretty much the same so far, but now we need to remove the gas tube and to remove it completely, and instead mount the Troy combo. This thing reduces the recoil by a lot for a handguard. And now in terms of grips, don't spend too much money on grips. Some grips cost more than the whole gun itself, but they reduce the recoil by like 4%. That's not worth it. So pick something that reduces it by 2%, I would say, and don't spend too much money. And now comes the important part, the muzzle brake, because those things have the highest impact when it comes to recoil reduction. And here the best one by far is the AK-74 thread type JMAC Customs RRD4C multi-caliber muzzle brake. What a name. Also called RRD4C. This thing is amazing, it reduces the recoil by 13 points. But it's also only available with traders level 4, and until then it's insanely expensive on the flea market. Now, if I want to build this weapon with max traded, it costs around 100,000 rubles, which is a lot for the recoil it has, and it's not silent. But if you don't have the traders and you need to buy it from players, it costs around 300,000 rubles. So in my opinion, absolutely not worth it, especially the silent support. Before I go into a rant or something, it's so sad that the AK doesn't have a good silencer, while even an M4 gets budget silencer that absolutely own the AK and pretty much every other gun. But back to the script, what about a Sniping AK? It's actually pretty simple. What you want to use is a silencer because you don't want to give away your positioning, but then you kind of destroy the ergonomics of the gun. But I would choose a PBS because it has the most noise reduction out of all silencers for the AK. And now we have to work on the ergonomics because it influences how fast your character looks through the scope and for how long he can do that. And since you're probably looking through your scope a lot when sniping, you want the ergonomics to be as high as possible. If that means you have a bit more recoil, don't worry, you will use single fire anyway. And to do that, we use the AK-100 Series 4 grip as so often, and now we use the KAC grip on the front. It's very cheap, it adds 7 ergonomics, exactly what we need. It's also available with Peacekeeper level 1, so you should have access to it very early in the game. If you have enough money, use the UAS stock at the back, it adds a lot of ergonomics. 16 to be precise. If you don't have that, don't worry, just use the rubber pad as always. Then one of the best budget scopes is the KMZ with the dovetail mount, especially if you have access to the flea market because nobody wants to play it, so it's insanely cheap there. There are 2 versions of it, just pick whatever version is cheaper currently, the difference isn't that much. But again, try to buy them from the flea market if you can. They are noticeably cheaper there, as traders will still ask 24,000 rubles for one of those. Or use the PSO, but that's just a 4 times, just, you know. Then use a laser pointer for close range because you're gonna hip fire if you encounter somebody on close range. Some pistol grip for more ergonomics, and that's it, you're done. So with that you have a sniper, full auto sniper with 40 ergonomics, which is pretty good if you want it silenced. And with a 10 times scope you see really far. Now you have to choose the right bullet. I would say just pick the fastest bullet that still penetrates helmet. So if you don't want to use Ergonomics, go for, I don't know, BP, but that doesn't penetrate level 4 helmets guaranteed, so it's really up to you. Just pick a fast bullet because fast means easier to shoot with a sniper rifle. Yeah, that's how I would use an AK if I wanted to snipe with it. So that's it with all the information about the AK, and of course you now get your AK certificate, congratulations. So in summary, the AK is an amazing weapon if you want to min-max, but it will never be a meta gun. The M4 has a higher rate of fire, has more accessibility, better modability, it can even be cheaper with the meta builds, which is ridiculous. The ammo is so cheap, you can buy it for 360 rubles a bullet at Skier. I don't know why, Nikita, what the hell? It's funny to me that Nikita always says he doesn't want a meta in Tarkov, and then they go and make the M4 the best gun in the game in every regards. I don't know why. And it's not gonna change until they address that. So if you want a meta gun, the AK is not the best choice, but if you want to min-max, so spend as little ruble as possible to get the most out of your gun, then the AK is the right choice for you. So I hope I could make this clear and really help you understand the whole set of the AK. If so, leave a thumbs up, tell me in the comment section what you think about the whole topic. If you have questions, as always, leave them in the comment section as well, or join our Discord, have a talk, subscribe for more, and thanks for watching.